Anno 2005 is an amazingly beautiful game. Still today in 2023, it provides a great experience, so I wanted to make sure that you have my top 10 tips to master this game. But if you want to see even more, don't hesitate to check in the video description below. I have a full playlist for this game from start to finish. Let's dive right in with tip number 1. Unemployment. Contrary to the old impression games like Cedar 3, the goal is not to have a very low unemployment rate. In some of the city builders, when you have a high employment rate, your people start leaving. This does not happen in Anno 2005. Actually, over here, you probably want to have as much unemployment as possible. By the way, employment in the game is called workforce. This is what you can see over here in the bottom left corner. I have a workforce provided of more than 38,000, and I have a workforce required, so how many people are actually working, of a bit more than 24,000. So with this, I have a positive balance. I have actually unemployment of 14,000, but it's not a problem because it means you're gonna be probably in positive money. Instead of trying to have low unemployment, what you need to try is to make money. Basically to have higher taxes and income than the maintenance of your production buildings. Tip number 2 is if you want to be in positive, if you want to have a growing empire, you need to have 3 values that are in positive. You need to have workforce that is in positive, basically unemployment as I just said. You need to have electricity, makes sense, right? If there's no electricity, things are gonna stop. But you also need to have logistics. Think of that as the number of trucks. The trucks that are transporting the resources across your cities. Obviously, if you don't have enough trucks, that means those productions are gonna stop or gonna be less efficient, and therefore you're gonna have high maintenance but not the income associated to it. So make sure that all 3 of these are always in positive, otherwise you may create actually a death spiral where it can really go down, especially in the veteran difficulty. Now, if you have all of the DLCs, you're gonna have multiple regions. You have the temperate region, this is where we start on Earth, that's a normal region. Then in the north over here, you have the Arctic, right? It's very cold. Then in between, you have the Tundra, and last but not least, you have the moon over here. So you have those multiple regions, and they are not all equal. In particular, before I said you want to have a lot of unemployment. This is actually really true in the temperate region. It's not so true in the other region, because not all population will bring you money. In the temperate region, this is easy. Indeed, the higher population you have, the higher money you're gonna make. So if you are in the red, just put more people in the temperate region. While in the other region, like the moon or the Arctic, it's actually almost the opposite. These are money pits. They bring you less income than the maintenance, especially in the veteran difficulty. So try to have the least amount of people in those regions and the most amount of people in the temperate region. Now in Anno 2005, you don't need to transport resources between different islands on the same map. So for example, in this region over here, you can see I have 5 different islands, right? 1 big one and 4 small ones. I don't need any boats or routes between those islands. This will be transported automatically. What you do need is routes between the different regions. So for example, if I want to transport between the Green Tile Archipelago and the Walbrook Basin, then I need some routes. These are charter routes, you don't even need the ships, you're just gonna pay in exchange. And here the key tip is, it's a lot more beneficial to actually do multiple small container ships rather than a big one. If you see a small container ship can transport 50. So let's say that I need to transport 150. This would be 3 of those small container ships. Each of them costs 100, so that's 300 of maintenance. If I take a medium one, I obviously only need 1 because the maximum is 500. But I need to pay 800 of upkeep, so it's definitely not a good idea. Do many small container ships as much as you can. The only exception to that rule is for the world market, because your number of routes to the world market is going to be limited. You can see, for example, right now I'm limited to 8, and I'm actually pretty late in the game. So early in the game, you're gonna have less than 8. You may only have 2 or 3. So that is the only place where you may actually want to use, big one. Tip number 5. Let's talk a bit more about the logistics. As I said, logistics is a bit like your trucks. How many trucks do you have in your city, and how many do you need? For example, over here you can see I have 575 trucks from my transportation centers. These are those small buildings that you can place anywhere you want. And then 50 from the warehouse of the island. And then I require 598 to have all of my productions work. So I have a positive balance of 27. That's perfect. But the important thing, the tip that I wanted to share is don't place those transportation centers randomly. You need to place them strategically because the number of trucks, the logistic that is required per production is linked to how close they are to the next transportation center. So for example, over here, I have a transportation center really close. So you can see that the logistic is 1. Now, if I move it very far, for example, over here, this is obviously still giving me the 25 of logistic. So, you know, my logistic provided, my number of trucks are still the same, it's still 575. But my maintenance cost has actually increased and therefore my balance has decreased. Because if we click again on this production, this desalination plant, we can see that now the logistic has jumped from 1 to 10. So it's a lot more. So again, tip number 5, make sure that you place your transportation centers all across your city. Basically, you know, you need to have them spread out across all of your productions so that all of your productions have a low logistic number. Tip number 6, the modules are super powerful. Similar to items in Anno 1800, if you're familiar with that game, you should always use them. When you have them, use them. It's actually even more powerful than in Anno 1800 because in Anno 1800, you do need to have the influence cost of 20 for the trade union. Here, you don't even have that cost. So this is a no-brainer. You know, those modules are really useful. They will enable you to be more efficient, to take less space. You may be wondering which modules to use. Well, first of all, if you have unlocked the final module, definitely use always that one. That's super powerful as long as you have the input from the Tundra. But then between those 4 over here, and there's actually a 5th one, which one should you use? Well, first and foremost, the production module, you should always use it. It is always better because it increases your production rate by 100%. So it's as if you have a second building, the second identical building, but the maintenance cost is only increased by 50%. So you have one more building, but for the cost of half. So it's definitely always do the production modules. And these ones anyway are separate. The other ones though are linked, meaning you can build 5 of a mix of these. You can build either 5 of these, 5 of these, 5 of these, or you could build 2 of these and 2 of these and 1 of this, or 3 and 2. You can do different combinations, but it's 5 for those 3 over here. And in my opinion, you should always go for the drone racks, which are reducing the maintenance in the Arctic and in the Moon, because remember what I said earlier, that the Arctic and the Moon are actually money pits, so you don't want to have a lot of people there. On the other hand, in the temperate region, because you don't really care about workforce, you can have a lot of workforce, I would suggest that you go for the energy maintenance instead. Now I said there was another module, which is the finance calculator. This is available for your energy productions. For example, this fusion reactor on the Moon. And for me, this is the only exception to the rule that I shared before. I shared before that on the Moon and on the Arctic, you should probably reduce the workforce. For the fusion reactor, for production of electricity on the Moon, actually use the credit maintenance so that you can get this fusion reactor to basically be free energy. It's 75 of maintenance, that's crazy. The standard maintenance is actually 7,500. And that actually leads me to tip number 7. It's infinite free energy. When you have unlocked those fusion reactors, you should definitely use them with those special modules from Li Shang. As I just showed you, you can get fusion reactor basically for free. Right? It's 75 of maintenance for a crazy amount of electricity of 20,000. By that point, you have also probably unlocked the energy transfer route. So now you can transfer energy between the crater to all of the other regions for free. This doesn't even cost anything. Tip number 8, your bank account is actually limited. You can see, for example, over here, my limit is 6,300,000. This maximum is based on your corporation level. So you can try to get your corporation level, to a higher level. Right now I'm at 62. The next level will be when I reach 392,000 employees. I'm at 386,000. But the key tip that I wanted to share there is make sure that you actually use your money when it's full. You can upgrade your ships. You can buy special rare materials, or you can buy a new region that you don't have. Whatever it is, just make sure that you use it, because you can see that right now I have a credit balance of more than 100,000 into positive, but I'm not using that, like I'm wasting it. Tip number 9, it may seem obvious, but I wanted to highlight that it is really important and really valuable to do the sector missions as soon as possible. As soon as you unlock them, definitely do them. They bring huge bonus. For example, in this region, right, I'm getting 6,000 of electricity completely for free. On the Moon, I have a lot of workforce for free. In the Arctic, I have a lot of logistic for free. I will put in the video description below the link to the wiki with all of those bonuses, but definitely, some great ones. Tip number 10, the Tundra. It's only one sector, but it is a really important one. I do suggest you try to unlock it, maybe not right away, but when you can, go for it. Similar to the orbital station, it will cost quite a bit to develop it, but it is really worth it. Because with this, you will unlock those biocatalysts and others that I showed you before, which will enable you to basically double the production output in all of the other regions. For me, when you've unlocked this is almost like a new game that restarts. You know, you've completed the whole game and now you can double your size of your empire. Okay, I have a couple of bonus tips coming, but don't hesitate to smash the like button if that's been useful. First bonus tip is that in the temperate region, you have the small residences and you have the residential complex. As much as possible, do residential complex. They are more efficient. They take less space because you need less roads, they cost less to upgrade, and they bring a bit more revenues. So they are no-brainers. Basically what you should do is put as many as those big ones as you can, and then just in the corner where you don't have the space to put big ones, then you can put the small ones. And final bonus tip, you can press plus in your keyboard or minus to increase the speed or decrease the speed. And this can be really useful when you're fighting or when you're waiting for a production to be finished. As I said at the beginning, don't hesitate now to watch my full Anno 2005 series. It's around 10 episodes of 30 minutes, so it's not too long, but you can see from start to finish of the game everything, with tons more tips and guides. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.